Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video, I'm going to go over my August reading wrap-up. So I'm going to talk about all of the books I read in the month of August. I read 7 books, 6 physical copies, and 1 online, which we're going to talk about that later. I have never read an online book before, but anyway, we're going to get into this video. I have quite the variety here. I also have a couple 5 stars, which is really exciting because obviously every month, every reader wants to read something that they absolutely loved. Totally subscribe if you're into book content. And I also have a little bit of different scenery here. I'm just filming in my kitchen because I was like, you know what, let's change it up a little bit. And it's really loud outside and that's where I was going to film. So the first read of my month was The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L Walther. This book took me a very long time to read. I've never almost DNF'd a book so many times and also kept reading it almost. I kept constantly thinking about cutting off reading it. I read the first 150 pages very spread out amongst quite a bit of time. I just would like read a chapter here and there and then I'd go read an entire book and then come back for a couple chapters, and I just realized that this book wasn't really for me. And I set it on my bookshelf in like June or July and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna pick this up again. And then like right at the beginning of August, I think August 1st, I was like, I just really want to like read an entire book today. And I was like, you know what? This book has like 250 pages left. I'm just gonna like jump into it and hope for the best. And I did, and I actually did enjoy the last 250 pages more. I absolutely could not get into the first 100. I wasn't really invested in the characters at all. There was character development, but I just like wasn't really into the storyline. I thought the game would be more intriguing than it actually was. I wasn't like that dedicated to it. I don't know. I couldn't really get into it. I didn't enjoy the plot and I also really didn't like the characters that much. I wasn't attached to them. I didn't care what really happened to them in the end. I gave this book 3 stars and I read it from June 27th to August 1st. So this book definitely took me some time to read, but it's just not my cup of tea, but I can see how people recommend it, I guess. So maybe you should check it out for yourself and decide. Then we have a very exciting, uplifting book that makes any 3-star book, which in my opinion, 3 stars is still like a decent rating. If it's 2 stars or under, then in my opinion, that's like, oh, that's a sucky book. But like 3 stars, I still think is like a mediocre, like the book was fine. Like if I give a book 3 stars, you might see me recommend it in other videos. This is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This book is very widely talked about on social media, but it took me so long to get to it because I just never had the motivation to read it. I did decide to tab it. I've gotten a little more selective with my tabbing. When I got my book tabs, I would annotate everything in every single book, and now I've kind of picked and chosen which book I feel like is going to have better quotes. And I have started books and been like, I'm not going to annotate, and then I end up annotating because there's really, really good quotes in them. This is basically a fake autobiography of like this woman named Evelyn Hugo who grew up, and you just see how she lives her life in the public eye and all these things that she has to sacrifice and do to stay there. And you just hear about like drama and like the acting life. And you obviously hear about her 7 husbands and how she got involved in 7 different marriages. And it sounded crazy when I started. I was like, 7 husbands. And now that I've read it, I like understand why she had so many husbands. And then the plot twist at the end of this book was absolutely incredible. So I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I love the authenticity of Taherah Jenkins Reid. I just feel like she always like takes risks and jumps at like something very unique and different, and I feel like it always pays off for her. So I loved this book and I completely understand the hype, and I was very excited because a lot of times I read overhyped books and then I'm kind of underwhelmed. But this one I can personally say I was very interested in and I loved the characters. The next book is The Paris Apartment by, I think this is Lucy Foley. Yeah, Lucy Foley. I had to take the sleeve off because it kept falling off, and that's my biggest problem with hardbacks is like the sleeve covers just constantly fall off. But this book basically surrounds a girl who's going to stay with her brother in this apartment, and she's basically just trying to like get back on her feet. She doesn't really have a connection with her brother at all, and then she gets there and like he's not answering his phone, he's not letting her into the building, like she has nowhere to go, she has very little money, and she doesn't really know what to do. So she ends up getting in, and then she realizes that he's missing. Like, he's not coming back. Like, she cannot find this man, and she has no clue what happened to him. So it actually jumps perspectives of the sister who is looking for her brother. You do hear a little bit of the brother's point of view for a couple of situations, and then it also is jumping to probably 5 or 6 other characters who live in the apartment building. So I really enjoyed this book. It was very eerie. It was very like somber. I loved like the rainy nights in Paris with like a black coffee vibe. I really enjoyed the setting of this book. I could see where people didn't like the plot twist. I did. It kind of was like, you could kind of start seeing it form probably like halfway, 75% through the book. So it wasn't the craziest plot twist, honestly, but there was little aspects of it that you just kind of like got thrown around and didn't expect. And there was this weird, like, almost acid trip moment in the book that I don't necessarily know if I liked. It was at, like, this club, and I guess you can read that and figure out for yourself. It just felt really weird and, like, out of place from the entire rest of the story. But it comes back together and makes sense, I guess. I gave this book 4 stars. I personally enjoyed it. I do see where people, like, wouldn't necessarily like this, but I really loved the writing style. I loved the perspective jumps. I don't know. I thought it was a solid read, and I'm such a sucker for like really making a vibe, and she did a very, very good job of like completely capturing like the Paris vibe. Next book we have is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I did want to read this book to finish out the majority of my summer books. I still have 2 I haven't read, but I got around to at least most of the books I got for summer. So this book definitely interested me the most of all 3 of her books. But this book basically takes place of a woman going to a lake house to write a book for a summer because she like literally has to have her book out in 3 months, and she doesn't even know where to start. So she gets there, and then she bumps into this guy that she used to know, and he is also a writer. They're pretty much like nemesis almost in a way. They like don't really like each other because they're both in like a similar department. They both start talking, and they talk about their writing slumps, and they make this deal that they'll write each other's genre for each other. So she's writing like, what is she writing? I think it might be historical, literary fiction. That's what she starts writing. And then he writes a romance book. I think I gave this book 4 stars. This was a 4-star for me. I liked this better than Book Lovers, which I think I also gave Book Lovers maybe 4 stars, but I think that'd be more like a 3.5 now that some time has passed. But it's a nice summer, probably like early fall read. I don't know. I thought it was a solid book, and I loved the banter. The banter was so good in that book. I probably liked it better than Book Lovers, even though Book Lovers banter was actually like, I think that's the reason I gave the rating so high for that book, was because of the banter in that book. Anyway, the next book I read was The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Armas? I don't know how to say last names. This book is super hyped up on Book Talk. Finally, this month, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna read it, because I assumed The Spanish Love Deception, like, I just got very summery vibes from this book, and I guess it still had it a little bit, but like, they didn't really talk about anything summery or beachy, and I genuinely was really excited to learn more about like Spain and to be, you know, kind of captured in the moment and really get into the vibe, but she didn't explain very much when they were on their trip. So that was a little bit disappointing for me. I thought it was like a cute romance. The banter was good. It was solid, but there was nothing that really, really captured my brain. I don't like to compare books, but this kind of reminded me of The Love Hypothesis, but like with less of a meaning. Like, this was like 450 pages, and I probably don't remember half of them. I think I gave this book 3.5 stars. Yeah, 3.5 stars, and I don't know what it was. I like didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I really would. Yeah, I don't know. It was a solid book. If you told me I had to read it again, I totally would, but it was not my favorite romance, but I did enjoy it. So like, don't seem like I didn't like it. I did like it. I don't know. It was maybe I did have higher expectations for it, but I did have a couple set the book down moments go like, because I will say I get the Aaron Blackford stands. He is a fine man. Next book is Shatter Me by Taherah Mafi. This book every human being's read. I don't really get into like fantasy dystopian books as much, and it's not that I don't like them. Actually, they tend to be one of, if not my favorite, like books. Like I almost always love them because it takes so much creativity and time to like calculate the world building and to like them. So I almost always like absolutely fall in love, especially if there's romance in it, because forbidden like romance in like dystopian worlds is just incredible. Let me tell you, I am obsessed with this series. I am so addicted. The first 10 pages, I literally read to 150. Like whenever I would sit down to read this book, the only reason I would stop was literally because I had to like get on with my day, or I had to go somewhere or do something. Like I never wanted to stop reading this book. I would have read this in one sitting if I could have. I don't know, when you read so consistently, after a while you kind of lose sight of books that make you constantly excited to keep reading them. Like you kind of keep reading them because you're like, like whatever, it's good. But this book was like my drug. Like I was addicted to reading this, and it was so good. I don't really want to I'm trying to keep very brief descriptions to these books because I have been hearing a lot of people say they really, really don't like descriptions of books, so you can look them up if you want. But I absolutely love the setting and the idea of this book, and I think I'm gonna become like a fantasy nerd because I'm absolutely. Would this be considered a fantasy? I'm not exactly sure what it'd be considered. It's kind of like a Maze Runner, Hunger Games kind of book. This book was a 5-star for me. I absolutely loved it. I'm so excited to finish the series because it's so good. This has crack in it. Like I'm just so addicted. Then the final book that I don't have here is the novella of the 1.5 to Shatter Me, which is Destroy Me. I'm not going to bore you with this story, but it took, like, I went to 3 different Barnes & Noble trying to find the Destroy Me book, and I called 2 ahead, and they said they had it, and then I got there and they didn't have it. So then I went home and I was like bummed or whatever, because I was like, oh, I really wanted to read that. Like, I was just like, I was doing whatever I could to find that book. And then I found it on some random website that I just like scrolled through and read, which maybe that was sketchy, I don't really know, but I read the novella. It was only 110 or 11 pages, so I read it in like an hour. I seriously can read those books so quick. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. You gotta check them out. And then I gave the novella 4 stars. I didn't really know what to rate it because, like, it was just important. Like, there was important little pieces. You don't have to read the novellas, but it had, like, little important pieces that makes you more drawn to the character. And it was, like, about Warner's perspective on the first book, kind of, or, like, what happened when the cutoff happened for him in the first book a little bit. I'm going to try and find the Destroy Me physical copy because I love having physical copies of books, and I actually had a solid time reading it on my phone. I've talked before how I'm not really an online reader, but I've never really tried reading something online, so that was the first time I've done that, and I definitely do like books better, but I didn't really have much of an issue or like this is really weird, I'm reading on my phone. It's all words on a page, like it doesn't really matter. So this is my monthly reading wrap up. This is the most I've read in the past 3 months in one single month. I've had kind of an unproductive summer reading. I've just been busy and everything, but I was so glad that I got to sit down and read a couple really, really solid books, and like all just decent books. Like none of them were bad. I'm so excited to see what my September holds because just wait until you see the TBR. The TBR for September is massive. So I will see you guys all next time. You should totally subscribe if you are into book contents or you like my content, and I will see you guys all next time. I love you very, very much. Also, let me know what you read this month and if you've read or are interested in reading any of the books that I read this month. So I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.